The Baseball Birthday Party. Published by Random House. Copyright 1995. The Baseball Birthday Party by Annabelle Prager. Illustrated by Marilyn. Chapter 1. The new kid, Billy, stood all by himself way out in the field, watching Nicky pitch the ball. "I wish someone would hit the ball out here," Billy said to himself. "I could show Nicky and the other kids how good I am. They've never seen me play before." Crack! The girl at bat gave the ball a smack. It bounded along the ground right to Billy. "Here's my chance!" Billy shouted. He held out his hands, but the ball bounced under his glove, through his legs, and into a clump of grass. "Get it! Get it!" shouted Anne and Suzanne. "Hurry! Hurry!" shouted Denny and Dan. Billy whirled around so fast that, boom! Down he went, right on top of the ball. "Throw it to me! Throw it here! Throw it home!" Voices shouted to him from all sides. It was too late. A runner slid across home plate. Another one followed. "We won! We won!" shouted the other team. Nicky threw his glove on the ground. "We were one run ahead till I put that new kid in the game," he said in a loud voice to his pal Albert. "Yeah," said Albert, "we lost the game because of him." They walked off the field together. Chapter 2. Billy stayed on the ground where he was. "It's not fair!" he cried. He felt a little tap on his head. "What's not fair?" said Dan. "Nicky didn't put me in the game till the last minute," said Billy. "Then I blew it. Now everybody thinks I'm a bad player. They'll never ask me to play again." "Nobody ever asks me to play either," said Dan. "They always say, 'Sure, you can play in our game next year.'" "That's because you're such a little guy," said Billy. "I'm new around here," said Billy. "Nobody knows I can hit a home run any time I want." "Any time?" said Dan. "Well, almost any time," said Billy. "Now nobody will ever know about it." He put his head in his hands. Suddenly he sat up straight. "I've got it!" he cried. "Got what?" asked Dan. "My birthday is coming," said Billy. "I'll have a baseball birthday party in my own backyard. I'll hit 1,000,000,000,000 home runs for everybody to see." "I want to come," said Dan. "I love parties." "Everybody loves parties," said Billy. "I bet everybody will want to come. Everybody." Chapter 3. So Billy decided to have a baseball birthday party the very next Friday at 3 o'clock. "Can I be your helper?" asked Dan. "Why not?" said Billy. "First, we have to make invitations." "I don't read and write very well yet," said Dan. "I'll do the writing," said Billy. "You can do the mailing." "Who are you going to invite?" asked Dan. "Let's see," said Billy. "There's Nicky and Albert and Anne and Suzanne. There's Morris and Doris and Denny." "And Dan!" shouted Dan. "That's me. Don't forget, you're going to ask me." I know," said Billy. "Won't everybody be surprised when I hit my home runs?" Dan helped Billy put the invitations in a shopping bag. "Now take them to the letter box on the corner," said Billy. "Drop them in the slot." "Shall I mail the bag too?" asked Dan. "No, silly," said Billy. Dan walked down the street till he came to a big box with a slot in it. He stuffed the invitations through the slot. "What a good helper I am," he said, feeling very pleased with himself. Chapter 4. On Monday, Billy went to the school library. He found a book called Baseball Tips for Boys and Girls. Every day he looked for tips like, "If a ball bounds to you along the ground, keep your hands low, fall to one knee, and block it." He found good tips for Dan, too, like, "You'll never learn to catch a ball if you keep your eyes shut." Every day they looked in Billy's mailbox. "Nothing yet," Billy would say. By Wednesday there were still no answers. "Are you sure you mailed the invitations?" Billy asked Dan. "Sure, I'm sure," said Dan. "Maybe everybody will call instead." But the phone didn't ring. Billy began to get worried. "Tell you what," he said, "you're my helper. How would you like to play detective?" "How do I do that?" asked Dan. "Snoop around," said Billy. "Find out who is coming to my party. But don't say it's me who wants to know." Chapter 5. So Detective Dan set out for the schoolyard. Anne and Suzanne were playing hopscotch. "Did you get an invitation for this Friday?" Dan asked Suzanne. "Course I did," said Suzanne. "I can't wait to see the lion." "Wow!" said Dan. "Billy didn't tell me there was going to be a lion." "They always have a lion at the circus," said Suzanne. "You mean there's going to be a circus too?" said Dan. "Poor little Dan," said Anne. "Don't you know there's going to be a circus in Pottsville on Friday?" "Why didn't you tell Billy about it?" said Dan. "Why should I tell Billy about it?" asked Anne. But Dan was already on his way to see Nicky and Albert. Dan tugged on Nicky's sleeve. "Who is coming to the baseball party?" he asked. "What baseball party?" said Nicky. "The one that Billy is having at 3 o'clock on Friday," said Dan. Nicky gave Albert a funny look. "You mean that Butterfingers who can't catch a ball?" he said. "How should I know?" Dan walked back to Billy's house feeling mad. "How did it go?" cried Billy. "I don't want to be a detective," said Dan. "It's not nice at all." "I guess I shouldn't have asked such a little guy to take on such a big job," said Billy. He began to get very, very worried. "Back where I used to live, people always answered invitations," he said. "Maybe around here they just show up." Chapter 6. Friday was a beautiful day for baseball. Dan went to Billy's house to help him get ready for the party. They put out big bowls of popcorn, pitchers of iced lemonade, and blue and red balloons that said, "I love baseball." Best of all was the big, gooey chocolate cake with candles on it. Then they sat on the porch steps to wait for the first guest. They waited and waited, but nobody came. "It's 3:15," said Billy. "I guess people around here don't like to come to parties on time." They waited some more. It got to be 3:30, then 3:45. Still nobody came. "I guess people around here don't like to come to parties at all," yelled Billy. "I'm going back where I used to live." He ran into his house and slammed the door. Chapter 7. Dan didn't know what to do, so he grabbed 2 fistfuls of popcorn and started down the street for home. He hadn't gone far when who should he bump into but Nicky and Albert. "Why are you so late?" he cried. "Late for what?" said Albert. "We were just going to walk by that new boy's house to see who he invited to his dumb party. We're mad because he didn't invite us," said Nicky. "He did invite you," said Dan. "He invited everybody. I mailed the invitations my very self in that letter box over there." "That's not a letter box," said Albert. "It is so," said Dan. "See, it says letter on it." "It says litter on it," said Nicky. Litter means garbage. You mail the invitations in a garbage can. Chapter 8. "There's a party going on," shouted Albert, "and nobody's at it." "We have to tell everybody right away," cried Nicky. So Albert and Nicky started up the street yelling, "Party at Billy's house!" "What can I do?" said Dan. "Go tell Billy that we're all on our way," shouted Nicky. Dan dashed to Billy's house. "Stop packing!" he yelled. "Everybody's coming! Everybody!" Chapter 9. Sure enough, in no time at all, Billy's yard was full of people. None were happier to be there than Albert and Nicky. "This is awesome," Nicky said to Billy. "We thought you didn't want us at your party because we were sore losers." "No kidding," said Billy. "And I thought nobody wanted to come because I messed up the game." "Hey, anyone can miss a ball," said Albert. "Nicky does it all the time." "I do not," shouted Nicky. "You'll see." Chapter 10. So Billy's party turned out to be a great party, even though it was a late party. They ate up all the popcorn, drank down all the iced lemonade, and when the last crumb of gooey cake was gone, they chose up sides and played baseball. Everybody got to play, even Dan. Nobody missed the ball too often, and everybody was surprised when a hard ball bounded along the ground to Billy. He kept his hands low, fell to one knee, and blocked it. They were even more surprised when Morris threw the ball to Dan. He kept his eyes open and caught it. But the biggest surprise of all came when the score was tied 6-6, and Billy came up to bat one last time. He hit the ball so hard and so far it took 5 minutes to find it in the neighbor's holly bush. "This party was a neat idea," said Nicky. "We've found a great new player." "And who will ever forget the invitations that got mailed in a garbage can?" said Albert. "Hooray for Billy!" shouted Anne and Suzanne and Morris and Doris and Denny. "And Dan!" shouted Dan. "Don't forget hooray for me, 'cause I'm the one who did it."